Greetings. I'm Janet Booth, a professional astrologer from West Hartford, Connecticut, and welcome to my program on astrology called Looking Up. That's a nice positive name, and I've enjoyed having that show name now for almost 20 years. So I hope you've been enjoying the show. Many people tell me, Janet, I don't always understand everything you're talking about and explaining, but I like to listen to you. There's something about your voice that's very comforting. So in these difficult times, and I'm taping this on March 16th of 2020, I thought, why don't I share with you some of the sage advice I give to clients on a regular basis, and it might be, you know, according to planets and signs, and maybe they're not all emphasized in your chart, but these are generalized pieces of wisdom that we can all employ at any time. And so I called this episode Timeless Wisdom. And I did notice when I looked back at my 2020 highlights and I said, oh, the most difficult season chart is, what did I say? Winter? No, I said that was easiest. I'm not sure that's going to be easiest. I said the toughest one was autumn. Well, right now I'm thinking winter and spring look pretty tough, but we'll see. There's a lot of things clustering around the spring equinox and the new moon of the 24th of March, and some serious things clustering around the summer solstice, including an eclipse new moon on that date. And we've talked about these things in the 2020 show that was the December 2019 show. And if you can see the March 2020 show, it is spring forecast. Spring is in the air. Now, what I didn't know at that time is what's in the air is also this very deadly virus, and that's come to our awareness. So we're going to talk today about what the planets and the signs can tell you about how to make it through tough times. And I thought of the planets as representing various drives that we all have. And I decided to say, well, maybe these are our superpowers, or at least our powers that we can call upon. And first we'll start with that heavenly body that's closest to Earth, our moon, our own satellite. And in astrology, no matter what sign you have the moon in, it has a lot to do with instinct, the gut feeling that we have. And now that might be something we need to rely on more. You know, does something sound true to us when we hear it? Or, you know, what is it that we need to do to respond in a particular situation? Sometimes we don't have time to think things through. We just have to use our gut instinct. And oftentimes, that's the smartest smarts that we have. I think scientists have recently found that there's almost like a nerve center in the stomach that's like kind of another brain. And maybe that has to do with our gut instincts. The moon is also a planet about home and nesting, and brings out our family background. Now, for some people, they may have had a difficult family background. For those people who had a strong one, you might say, well, I can draw some strength from things that I learned from my parents, my grandparents. And if you had a difficult family upbringing, you can say, well, there's the ancient wise sages of our ancestors, and you can look back for fabulous quotes from across history and let those people be kind of like your honorary parents. And the moon is also about our habits, and habits are so important. Good habits will stand you in good stead for a long time, where, you know, bad habits eventually over the course of time will catch up with you. So pay attention to your habits, your instincts, and draw on the caring strength of ancestors and family. And this might even be your children as part of your family, and sometimes they can bring you joy in the midst of difficulties because, you know, you're kind of shielding them. They don't really know how bad it is, probably. Well, they know something's going on, that's for sure. So the next heavenly body we would look at is the sun. And the moon and the sun, we call them planets in astrology, but they're really what are also termed the lights or the luminaries, and they're the most important of the heavenly bodies. They're big timers. The moon times out a month, the sun times out a year. In terms of powers that we get from the sun, willpower is the strongest one. That sort of determination and strength. And I'm thinking also of a magnet that's on my stove, and it's from Celestial Seasonings Tea. It shows a lion, and it has a quote from John Milton. It says, "But what is strength without a double share of wisdom?" So we want to put wisdom with our strength, but it is important to have a sort of pride in what you do, and thinking in terms of, well, how am I acting? Will I be proud of that? And even posture. I kind of sat up as I was thinking about this and checking my notes, because the sun rules the spine, and especially the lower back, and kind of around our core, and it rules the heart as well. So you want to have a strong core and keep your head up and have good posture. Now Mercury is the first planet out from the sun, the next one we'll look at. And Mercury is our thinking function and our communication. It's also all of our sensory perceptions, things we have two of because it rules Gemini. So 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 lips, 2 nostrils, 2 lungs, 2 arms and shoulders. So it's being in touch with what you're perceiving and what you're thinking and what you're communicating. Then there is, and intelligence, I guess we'd say. Then comes Venus. Venus in charge of Libra, weighing and balancing. It's a lot about cooperation and teamwork, partnering. So the idea of you're not alone, but you've got other people you can turn to, people you love, people who love you. It's the love principle. It's about fairness. They tell us, oh, don't go, buy up every last whatever on the shelf. Leave something for somebody else. Be fair. Mars. Mars is about bravery and confidence. It's very risk-taking and survival-oriented. So Mars will give you some chutzpah when you need it. Then comes Jupiter. Jupiter is about expansion, the biggest planet, but it gives us that idea of large things and even kind of the interconnectedness of all. Or it's the planet about philosophy and perspective. Think of rising above and seeing things in a broad view, a worldwide view. It's also the planet about philosophy. So if you have kind of a philosophical outlook and a broad perspective and some optimism, you can make it through a lot of, let's call them temporary, restraints and difficulties. And most importantly of all, Jupiter is the planet related to humor and laughter. And it is true, laughter is the best medicine. So even in the most serious, hard times, we need to find things that we can laugh at, because that will kind of break some of the spell of the difficult times. Now, Saturn is the next planet out, and it has a lot to do with reality, science, facts, things that we need in order to make considered opinions and judgments. It's the planet about judgments. So the more that you can have some knowledge, and Jupiter wants you to go out there and learn, and it rules the internet. So, if we're all stuck at home, hopefully the internet or the broadband widths and all that allows us to go onto that information highway and learn a lot of things and see what the facts are. So Saturn is also very much about maturity and responsibility and respecting other people. So we want to turn to that as one of our powers. Then we come to the outer planets, which are oftentimes considered not as personal, they're more generational or transpersonal. They're what we discovered once we, had the telescope. We couldn't just see it with our bare eyes. So Uranus is the planet of experimentation. It has a very sciencey side to it as well. And it's a planet of humanitarianism, friendship. It kind of rules the masses and the collective. And boy, we really feel how we're part of a collective now. And we're going to see how that connects also with Neptune in a moment. But Uranus is also the planet about uniqueness and marching to the beat of your own drummer, and freedom and rebellion. So we live in America. We were born of rebellion. We treasure our freedoms. Right now our freedoms are being somewhat restricted. So we have to look in terms of, we don't have to, it would be nice if we did, look in terms of our collective experience in being mature and responsible and respectful to others, and this is how we're going to all get through as a collective. And I wanted to correct myself on that. You have to do this, because I was watching a lot of videos over the weekend, and some astrologers were saying, you have to this or you have to that. Or maybe I was listening to podcasts, whatever. And I thought, I don't have to anything. You can't make me do nothing. That's a very sort of rebellious Uranus kind of response. Okay, so next is Neptune. And Neptune has the main power of faith. And I always tell people faith is the other side of the coin from fear. Because fears are going to come in. You can't stop that. But when you recognize that you're in a place of fear, you want to flip that coin over and see, what do I need to believe in more to put those fears at bay? So, faith, fear, two sides of the same coin. Neptune's also a planet of creative expression. So we all need to have something to kind of bring something out of our soul and express it and get it out. And whether that's for you music or poetry or dance, Neptune's related to all of the arts. So even if you're home alone, you can be dancing in your own living room or kitchen, or you can be drawing, or if you're not talented artistically, open up a book or go to a website where you appreciate other people's art. It's also the planet of compassion, and we need a lot of that for our fellow women, humans at this point in time. It's the planet that is related to our immune system, and that is the thing that can really be your superpower in a situation like this. And to keep your immune system strong, you need your sleep. And in order to be able to sleep, you need to put your worries to bed. Somebody gave me one of these little, it's like a wooden box with little teeny dolls in it from Guatemala. They're called the worry dolls. And you're supposed to give your worries to the dolls and close them into the box when you go to bed so that you can have a good night's sleep. And take your vitamins, or, try to get good nutrition, because that also helps very much with your immune system. Now we come to Pluto. Pluto is the planet of transformation, of changing from one kind of condition to another, or turning the page and starting a new chapter. It's endings and beginnings, and the cycle of life and death. And therefore, it also has to do with letting go and release. And sometimes I call Pluto the garbage man of the zodiac. He takes out what's outworn and not needed in our life anymore. So what do you need to kind of take out of your life, of your consciousness, of your heart? Or what do you need to let go of to be more at peace and in less of a place of worrying? Pluto is also the planet about collective financial matters, and those we are seeing are very important now. I mean, they've always been important, but we're gaining a greater appreciation for that. Now, I'll include under the umbrella of planets the nodes, the north and south nodes of the moon, even though Western astrology doesn't consider them planets, but the type of astrology practiced in India called Vedic or Jyotish does consider them planets. And these are the intersections of the orbit of the Earth around the Sun and the Moon around the Earth. And when we have Earth, Sun, Moon line up at these intersections, we get the eclipses. But what they're telling us on a personal development level is this energy we bring into this lifetime and what we're here to develop with it. And also, it's bonds and connections we make with other people, karmic kind of bonds. So if we remember our karmic bonds, and I sometimes jokingly say, remember how that this lifetime is the past life of your next life. So you want to get it right. And the nodes also have to do with that sense of direction. So if we have a sense of the direction we're going in and that we want it to be karmically correct, that will help guide us at this time, be a good compass for us. Now the key points of the chart that are the rising point, called the ascendant, is something that reminds you to be in your body and to know who you are. And the top point of the chart, called the midheaven, helps you know your role in the world and what part you are here to play. So these are some of our superpowers that we can use at any point in time. And the times that we're going through, we've just come out of the 20 teens. Every year had a 1 in it. Now we're coming into the 2020s. Every year in this decade is going to have 2 2s in it. 1 is the number of competition and even conflict. And 2 is the number of cooperation. So we're moving into a more cooperative period from a competitive period. And boy, don't we need that cooperation here. So I also wanted to look at the signs very briefly as to they might be like allies that we have to help us through this situation. And Aries is a sign about get busy, take action. Don't be the deer stuck in the headlights, but do something. Taurus is about our values and simple pleasures, or what do you treasure? I remember my grandmother Booth would say, she was born in 1903 and died in 1999. And out of all the inventions and technologies she saw develop in her lifetime, she said for her the one that meant the most was indoor running water. And I would even probably add hot indoor running water, because she remembers the days when you had to take it from the pump and bring it inside and heat it on the stove just to wash your face or your hair or whatever. So the next time you're taking a shower, be very grateful for that indoor hot running water. And all the time, aren't we so lucky we have electricity? Like, people were preparing almost like it was going to be a blizzard or something, and you're then concerned about electricity. Well, now we're in sort of blizzard conditions, but at least we've got our electricity, so be happy for that. I'm even happy. You know, you get into bed when you've just changed your sheets. It feels so good to have clean sheets. Enjoy your little simple pleasures. Now, Gemini, very important because it rules the breath. Dr. Andrew Weil, who wrote a great book called 8 Weeks to Optimum Health, has a different breathing exercise for each week. I saw him on Larry King, and Larry said, Dr. Weil, what's most important for your health? Supplements, exercise, rest, whatever. He says, breath. We are creatures of breath, from our first breath to our last breath. I thought, boy, that's profound. So be aware that your breathing can calm you down when you're all jazzed up, or if you're too kind of logy, it can jazz you up. So these are what the yogic breathing exercises can help with. And it's also very interesting to note that this COVID-19 virus is a disease that affects breathing and the lungs, and these are related to Gemini and Mercury that I mentioned before. And usually when we have eclipses occur in a sign pair, there'll be like a 1.5 to 2 years and multiple eclipses in each sign. And we've just kind of been finishing up with Cancer Capricorn, and we're going into Sagittarius Gemini, and after that will be Taurus Scorpio. When I look to see how many eclipses are we going to have in Gemini, I was shocked to find there were only 2. I don't know off the top of my head, and I haven't researched this, but I don't recall in all my years of looking at astrology that we've had only 2 eclipses in one sign, and then it'll wait like 9 more years before there's more. So November 30th of this year is a full moon eclipse in Gemini, and June 10th of 2021 is a new moon eclipse in Gemini, and then that's it. So it might turn out, if we're lucky, that this disease that is affecting breathing in a lot will kind of run its course out, majorly, hopefully, within a little more than a year from now. I have heard some other astrologers saying, looks like there's some kind of epidemic that could go for at least 2 years into 2022, whether it's COVID-19 or not. And that was Lee Lehman, Leehman. You can look for her YouTube video about coronavirus. So, breath. And also, Gemini is about the power of your mind. Cancer, it's our sense of security. It's our sense of being protected. We need to reinforce these because it would be so easy to feel insecure at this time. And that's that family sign ruled by the moon. So stay in close touch with your family. Leo is our childlike sense of joy and innocence. It's good to connect with that when you're feeling all of the weight of the world coming down on you. And to remember, like a sunny day, the sun rules Leo. And I looked today, I said, you know, it's cold this morning, but it's a beautiful sunny day. Nature doesn't know what problems humans are having. Spring is coming anyway, the daffodils are up. So be like a child in some way. Virgo is the sign of service to others, being helpful. So that's something we can do now. Even, again, if you're home, if you're isolated, you can reach out to people and just be helpful by being an ear, you know, listening. And it's also the sign about cleanliness. And boy, aren't we all attuned to now how important cleanliness and hygiene are for our own sake and for the sake of those around us. Libra is the sign of socializing. I mentioned before when we talked about Venus, you're not alone. Well, we're all in this boat together. And that really relates a lot to Pisces, like one drop in the ocean of mankind. But with Libra, maybe you don't have a mate or a partner, maybe you do. If you don't, hook up with a friend who can be like your buddy. Do you remember the buddy system? I don't know, when I learned how to swim, everybody had their buddy to make sure nobody was gonna, you know, be drowning and be under too long when you're practicing breathing out through your nose and things like that underwater. So use the buddy system. Scorpio, our next sign, is about persistence. It's like being like a rock. You know, I think about erosion. It takes the little drop of water or the waves a long time to make a change in that rock. So use your strength. And it relates to Pluto that we talked about before, the ruling planet of Scorpio, about the survivor abilities, I guess I could say. Sagittarius, it's one of these go with the flow signs. Let the water run off you like, what is it, like water off a duck's back. Let your problems flow over you. Or like when you're meditating, they say, oh, your thoughts are going to come back, but just let them kind of like float by and then see if you can't return to your breath. That's what meditating is a focus on the breath and trying to just let thoughts go by. And Sagittarius does have to do with learning, internet we talked about before with Jupiter, and our link to the greater world, and again the humor, the same things as Jupiter. Sagittarius, it's about good boundaries. It's ruled by Saturn, so Saturn's got that ring around it. It gives you the idea if you need to know, you know, good fences make good neighbors, what's your respectful distance to stay away, or and it's also about shielding. In the body, Capricorn and Saturn, its ruling planet, rule the skin, and that's what separates us from the outside world. also rules the skeleton, which helps us stand up straight. So these are things to think of with Capricorn. Now, Aquarius is the sign of friendship and humanity, brotherhood. You know, you think of that dawning of the age of Aquarius song, and, you know, peace and love and understanding. It can also have a lone wolf side to it. You know, somebody who wants to kind of stay apart from the crowd. So there might be times when you want to be away from everybody, but other times you really need that sense of connectedness. So do try to maintain that. And this is a sign about ingenuity and inventiveness. So you can bring up some of the Aquarian brilliant mind capabilities and figure out how to, you know, do what you need to for yourself. Or maybe, you know, something needs to be fixed around the house, and usually you would call up somebody else, but now instead you're going to figure it out yourself. You know, sometimes I go on YouTube and I see the little video, you know, like I fixed something in my toilet. I don't know what I'm doing with the toilet, but the YouTube video told me just what to do. And finally, we have Pisces, which relates very much to prayer. I mentioned faith versus fears when we talked about Neptune. And, you know, all of the arts, music. Music is great because, like breath, it can calm you down or it can get you more energized. So when things are getting crazy, see what good kind of music you can tune into, or what kind of inspiration you can get from artists or things from across the centuries. And I also oftentimes share with people something that I picked up from an author that spoke to the Connecticut Authors and Publishers Association. Her name was Millie Greneau. It's spelled like enough with a G-R in front of it. She has a book called 60 Second, like 1 minute, Strategies to Dealing with Oasis and the Overwhelm. And one of them she calls one stone. She says, you have a smooth stone. When you're getting all, you know, going crazy, pick up your stone, hold it in your hand, and just breathe. Focus on your breath, holding your stone for 1 minute. It's very grounding, and that will help. And grounding is good with Capricorn or Saturn. And another one that she said is what she calls cue to do. When you get all, recognize that. That's your cue. You need to change the channel of what you've been thinking about. It's all like, you know, we're tuning into a radio station, and sometimes we play the same old tapes over and over again. So change your channel. These are the times that try men's souls. And when the tough going gets tough, the tough gets going. So bring out the best of the planets and the signs, manifest your best qualities, and hopefully we see you again soon on Looking Up.